Twisted Treeline. I wonder how many of you play this map regularly right now. Back in the day when I started playing this game, Twisted Treeline was actually a fairly popular map. And right now it doesn't really seem like this anymore. In fact, it's one of the only two real maps we have right now by the Summoner's Rift, because the Crystal Scar, the Dominion map, was removed. Let's get into Twisted Treeline history. So League of Legends as a game was released on October 27, 2009, and at the same day a Twisted Treeline was released publicly in custom games. Few months later, on 30th March 2010, it was released for normal games. The breaking point of Twisted Treeline though was 17th October 2012. That was the time when Twisted Treeline got reworked. And it got a real massive rework. It's nowhere near comparable with the Summoner's Rift rework we had, because it was mostly visual with some gameplay changes, but Twisted Treeline gameplay was completely changed on that patch, and many people still think that it wasn't a good decision. When you go to the League of Legends video about Twisted Treeline rework, it seems that the most people like it. It has around 90% likes, so a really nice like to dislike ratio. But when you get into the comments, you can see a lot of people commenting about bringing back the old Twisted Treeline. According to one of the videos, which really we have no reason to doubt, it says that 87% wanted to keep both the old Twisted Treeline and new remake version as a new one. And only around 13% people wanted to replace the old Twisted Treeline with the new one. Keep in mind the sample size was pretty low. Well, maybe those people were just scared of changes, or they were maybe nostalgic. But let's get into what was actually changed in this patch. So basically Riot added a shrine to the map, they added 2 altars that you can capture, so it's kind of like a Dominion thing. And I personally think that this type of capture a flag thingy in League of Legends was never a successful thing, and I don't really like this mechanic in game. You can even look at the Skarner, where his passive was kind of controversial and many people think it's really out of place and shouldn't be in the game. But the biggest change to me was the jungle monsters. Back in the time when you played jungle, you had 2 areas of monsters. You had one between top and bot, and then you had one over the top lane. So basically you had 3 camps on the southern side, and then you had 5 camps on the northern side, considering the dragon, called the Ibon Maw. And the thing I really liked about the old jungle monsters were their buffs. So there were actually 4 buffs for you to capture. So in the top side you had Rabbit Wolf and Ghast camps. Rabbit Wolf gave you a buff that increased your attack speed by 20% and reduced your cooldowns by 10%. And a Ghast camp increased your movement speed by 30%. Both of those buffs lasted for 1 minute and they respawned every 3 minutes. But the funny thing was that you never knew which one will spawn, because you could either get 2 Rabbit Wolves or 2 Ghasts, or 1 Rabbit Wolf and 1 Ghast, because they had the same place to spawn, so you had the 2 camps and you could have got any of these. But there was also a red buff that you were able to get in the Twisted Treeline, that was pretty much the same like the one in the Summoner's Rift. The difference was that this Lizard Elder that you had in Twisted Treeline was slightly stronger than the one you had in Summoner's Rift. So after some time, the Lizard Elder was renamed into Gress the Lizard Lord. It was named after a guy who was the first person to reach 1000 referrals in League of Legends. So basically, 1000 people used his referral link to start playing League of Legends. Back in the day, the refer a friend thingy was a really popular thing, and it allowed you to get some extra things. Nowadays, most people don't really know about it. So the red buff was spawning right in the middle of the map, so it was accessible for both of the teams. But the strongest monster on Twisted Treeline was a dragon named Ibon Maw. So whenever you killed him, you got 280 gold for every of your player in the team, and then you also got a buff that was pretty strong. So basically, it increased your damage dealt from attacks and spells by 1% per each champion level you had. So if you had a 18th level at the time, the buff basically increased your damage by 18%. So considering you also got a lot of money for killing him, that was object that was definitely worth contesting. There were also 4 smaller camps that were made of golems, lizards or whites that gave you just the gold. They didn't really give any buffs. But the fun fact is that in the Twisted Treeline you were actually able to get 4 buffs at the time, which was back in the time impossible to get in the Summoner's Rift, because you only had the Baron buff, Blue buff and Red buff. Right now you can also get the Dragon buffs, so we can say that you can get 4 buffs at the time. You can also probably get even 5 with the Rift Herald buff. So in the old Twisted Treeline you were also able to ward. There were a lot of brushes on the map. Trust me, there were so many brushes, like it felt like almost half of the map was covered with brushes. So the ward coverage was really important part of the game. And right now you don't really have wards in the Twisted Treeline, and I don't really think that was a good decision. I don't think that it was a good gameplay change. So I used to play a decent amount of Twisted Treeline before the rework, but I never really got into the game after the rework. I was thinking about it, and I just don't like the new map. I don't like the way it is. I don't like the altars, I don't like that you cannot ward, I don't like the jungle changes. In overall, I don't really like the new Twisted Treeline. Maybe it's just me and my friends, but everyone that I knew basically preferred the old version. It just felt like the gameplay was so much more enjoyable. Maybe it was just because we were starting the game and we were somewhat new to the game. Maybe we are somewhat nostalgic to the old Twisted Treeline, but I never really enjoyed the new one, and trust me, playing the old one was a really nice experience to me. The thing that didn't really change between the new and the old Twisted Treeline is the champion pool. The champions that are strong in here are mostly the bruisers, that are good at dueling, such as Jax or Jinzhao, and they were also pretty popular back in the time, and they were banned in the competitive matches. Back in the time, jungling was also way harder, so the champion that you will most likely see jungling was of course Warwick, because he always had a great time jungling. Maybe some other champions like Xinjiao or so. But as far as I know, Twisted Treeline never really had a typical meta champions. There were some champions that were played, yeah, but it wasn't like you needed to play this champion top lane, you needed to play this champion bot lane. Well, people were messing around, sometimes picking that, sometimes picking it, and you cannot really do that in Summoner's Rift, because if you pick something weird, then you're gonna get shit dog or something like that. So I personally prefer the old Twisted Treeline more. If you play the old one and the new one, I'm gonna make a poll in the description, so vote in the poll and tell me which one you prefer, the old one or the new one. I also want to talk a little bit about the future of Twisted Treeline. We know that the Dominion and Crystal Scar were removed, and I am afraid that Twisted Treeline may also be another map that will be removed. I don't really know too many people playing this map. In fact, I don't really know anyone that plays this map regularly. There may be a lot of people doing that, but I myself don't really know anyone. So do I think it will be removed? Yes, I think it may be removed. I'm not saying that it will be removed, but I say it is likely to be removed, there is a decent chance for it to be removed, and the reasoning will be probably the same as the Dominion, so basically not enough people queuing for that. We know that Riot tends to remove the queues that are not really played by many people, such as removing normal drafts in some servers. In EUNE they brought it back, but I don't really think that more people played Twisted Treeline, that more people played Summoner's Rift in the draft mode, and yet they decided to remove the draft mode, so I am afraid in some time Twisted Treeline may also be removed. Who knows, maybe Twisted Treeline will be removed and then put into rotational game mode. I really have no idea, but from my perspective the Twisted Treeline future doesn't really look too bright. I just hope that when they decide to remove the Twisted Treeline, we'll get another brand new map. I really doubt that we will get a new map anywhere soon. It seems like the Summoner's Rift is just the one map to go. Removing Twisted Treeline wouldn't really be surprising to me, and I wouldn't really worry about it myself. I really enjoyed the old Twisted Treeline, but the new Twisted Treeline map is something I don't enjoy, and I don't really queue into it anymore. So I myself prefer the old Twisted Treeline way more. Despite the fact that we got some nice visual changes, I think that the gameplay changes we got with the new Twisted Treeline actually ruined this map. But please tell me what do you guys think about this in the comments. I'm really curious what do you think about the old Twisted Treeline and new Twisted Treeline. And if you liked the video, then maybe decide to like it. If you didn't like the video, then feel free to dislike it. So that would be pretty much it. Thanks a lot for watching guys, take care, see you.